In this video, we will discuss the forms and translations of the present active participle. We will also explore some fundamental ideas about participles. Our first example describes a scene from Augustus R. Epicus, The Altar of Peace. Femina pueros tenens sedet. The woman, holding the boys, sits. Femina is a nominative subject, and the main verb is sedet. We have a participial phrase in the middle, helpfully set off by commas. Tenens is a nominative singular participle, which describes femina. And pueros is a direct object in the participial phrase. The woman, holding the boys, sits. Our next example shows the early Roman hero Cincinnatus, a retired general who was called away from his farm to lead the army once more. Cincinnatus senatores entrantes videbat. Cincinnatus is the nominative subject, and videbat is the main verb. The noun senatores is an accusative direct object, and the word entrantes is a participle that describes the senators. So we translate, Cincinnatus saw the senators entering. Or, perhaps a bit more loosely, Cincinnatus saw the senators as they were entering. As we prepare to explore present active participles and specific, we should first outline the general nature of participles. A participle is an adjective that is formed from the stem of a verb. As we saw in the illustrated examples, the participles described nouns, just as we would expect of an adjective. So, because a participle is an adjective, it agrees with the noun it modifies in those three key ways: case, number, and gender. In the last section of this video, we will fully decline a present active participle and look at all its forms. While participles are adjectives in function, it is important to note that they do retain some verbal elements, especially as they indicate tense and voice. The tense of the participle will always be relative to the time of the action of the main verb in the sentence. Participles can sometimes also govern participial phrases, which may include direct objects, adverbs, prepositional phrases, etc. One of our examples just now was Cincinnatus senatores entrantes videbat. We noted that, because participles are adjectives, the participle entrantes modified the noun senatores. We'll explore the aspects of tense and voice more specifically when we discuss the present active participle. But let's think about participial phrases for a moment. It would be possible for us to give this sentence a participial phrase by adding a direct object, perhaps agrum. This creates a participial phrase, which is here separated by commas. Cincinnatus saw the senators as they were entering agrum, the field. I've set off the participial phrase here with commas, but watch out. You won't always have the commas there to help you. Let's turn our attention to forming the present active participle. Present active participles, generally speaking, are formed by adding ens entis to the present stem of a verb. Ens is the nominative singular ending, and entis is the genitive singular. Now, this is a third declension adjective. Recognize that from the genitive singular is ending. We've seen two participles so far, tenens and entrantes. Tenens was a nominative singular, showing the ns ending. And remember that when we decline adjectives and nouns in Latin, that we get our stem from the genitive singular. The stem of a participle ends in nt, as we see in the genitive singular. And those two letters show up again in entrantes. Here are two silly little mnemonic devices to help remember these ideas. First, the word present in English uses that same nt that is found on the stem of the present participle. Second, you can remember that ns is the nominative singular because ns looks like an abbreviation for nominative singular. It's silly, I know, but often helpful. Okay, now on to the specifics. For verbs in the first and second conjugations, the present participle is formed by adding the endings ns intis directly to the present stem of the verb. Remember that you can find the present stem by removing the re from the infinitive. So in our first conjugation example, amo amare, the present stem is ama, and from there we create the participle amans in the nominative, and amantis in the genitive. And in our second conjugation example, dokeo dokere, the present stem is doke, and from there we create the participle dokenes dokentus. Now, for verbs in the third and fourth conjugations, we need to add a vowel to our endings to sort of serve as glue between the stem and the endings. So we'll add ains entis to the present stem. For the third conjugation, the entire ere comes off the stem, and we create the participle mitanes mitentus. Now, remember that for the third io conjugation, the verb keeps an I on its present stem. So our present participle also keeps an I on the present stem for all its forms. Faciens, facientis. And finally, for the fourth conjugation, we'll use invenio as an example. Remove the re from the infinitive, and add ains entis to get inveniens, invenientus. So let's consolidate all the information about present participles. Remember that participles have tense, which shows a time relative to the time of the action of the main verb. The present participle denotes an idea that is at the same time as the action of the main verb. Participles also have voice, active or passive. Since the present participle is an active participle, the noun it modifies does the action. Now, to form a present active participle, we add ins entis to the stem for a first or second conjugation verb, and ains entis for a third or fourth conjugation verb. This creates a third declension adjective. To translate the present active participle, you can use the standard formula blanking. However, there is always a little bit of room for flexibility here. Notice the ns entis ending on both participles, which are third declension adjectives. We can simply translate both as blanking, so loving and sending. Now, let's translate an example from Latin literature. First we have Lucretia, who, in another early Roman story, asked her family to take revenge on the man who raped her. Lucretiam sedentem maestam in cubiculo inveniunt. We have a prepositional phrase. The main verb is inveniunt, and Lucretia is the direct object. We have two accusative adjectives modifying Lucretia, maestam, sad, and sedentem, our present active participle. Recognize the am accusative ending for maestam, and the em accusative ending for sedentem. We can translate, they find sorrowful Lucretia sitting in her room, using that blanking formula. You could be a bit more flexible, however, and say, they find Lucretia as she was sitting sorrowful in her room. Let's now decline a participle, in all cases, numbers, and genders. We'll use as our example intro intrare, the verb to enter. We've already seen that we make our participle by adding ins entis to the present stem of the verb. So we have intrans nominative and intrantus genitive. This is the same for all genders. Now, we know that this is a third declension adjective, and we'll have to keep in mind that third declension adjectives operate like I stems. So, we will take our stem from the genitive singular, intrant, and then add the third declension endings to it, is, e, m, e, intrans, intrantus, intranti, intrantem, intranta. The same will apply to neuters. And keep in mind the neuter rule, that the nominative and the accusative are always the same. Now, since we're working with I stems, the ablative singular can, in certain circumstances, be intranti. You can consult your teacher or your textbook for more information on this. Now, for the plural forms. We continue adding the adjective endings to the stem intrant. Intrantes, intrantium, intrantibus, intrantes, intrantibus. And in the neuter, intrantia, intrantium, intrantibus, intrantia, intrantibus. Remember the generative plural for I stem adjectives show the I, intrantium, and so do the neuter nominative and accusative, intrantia.